We want to teach a new study that is just coming out in book form called The Grace of Giving. I don't normally tell people the title of this sermon when I travel different places and they want to know what I'm going to teach. If I tell them I'm teaching on the grace of giving, either people stay home, they leave their wallets at home, they have a preconceived notion, and they have a bias against giving for the most part because we've all been dinged, we've all been exploited, we've all seen the carnal side of giving, and we have an aversion to it. I think if I change the name of the book to The Grace of Getting, we might sell more copies, might get a little more interest, but because there is a great following in the teaching that says, give and you shall get, and the emphasis is on getting, and everybody wants a piece of that, and so I want to be true to what the Lord has taught me and true to what I think people need, not just what they would subscribe to, but what they actually need. And this is a revelation. I didn't know I needed it, but it's been one of the sweetest things the Lord's laid into my life. It's marked my life in practically everything I do, and I'd like to share it with you. When I was a young disciple, just starting out, 40-some years ago, the Lord took me into a wilderness time that was dry, that was lonely. I didn't have very many people who were all that hepped on going where I was going. He told me by the Spirit that he was going to take me in the wilderness. I didn't know quite what to expect. And what that meant for quite a few years, especially the first 3 years, very, very intently, it meant going without an income. So Heather grew up in a fairly well-to-do family. Her mother was a banker, her father was an engineer. My parents are working-class, blue-collar people, and so it wasn't such a big adjustment for me in that sense, but it was for Heather. But it wasn't what I expected. I was expecting the Lord to bless me. I was expecting good things to come my way, and he started leading me into a place where there was nothing and no income. And it was in that context that he began to teach me about giving. And it would have been a lot easier for me first if he explained what he was doing. And you know, the children of Israel, as they go through the wilderness, he doesn't explain what he's after. He doesn't explain what he's doing. It's like Deuteronomy 8, and they're at the river getting ready to go in the promised land. He explains what he was doing all along in the wilderness. And but he's leading me into this whole thing of giving. And Heather and I had some real tense moments around that. I come to know the Lord, and the first thing I want to do is give away everything we had. And I gave away a lot of stuff. I felt led by the Lord. It didn't look like anything was going to come out of that. It was a really challenging time, very disconcerting time. And but at the same time, I'm praying for grace. I'm asking God to give me more grace. I remember a prayer, I've prayed this prayer not too long ago again, but I remember my head listening to my heart praying, saying, Lord, I don't want money. I want the gifts of the Spirit. I want grace. Give me grace. Give me more grace. I don't care about money. I want grace. And so he started taking me through a process. And the process was hair-raising, exciting. It was faith-building. I thought it was about money. If you had asked me at the time, I would have said, yeah, God's changing things in my heart, my relationship to money, how I think about money, my dependency upon my own ability to make money, all those things. I didn't realize that it wasn't money that he was working. That was just the medium. That was just a tool that illustrated a lot of things about grace, about healing, about prophecy, about missions, just so many things concerning the heart of God. And now looking back on it, I remember when I started catching up with what I perceived him to be doing, and was so grateful. And what a process he took me through, and I'll share more about that as we go here. But as you get to know the Lord, one of the first things you'll learn about him is he is a giver. He is a giver. Love gives. We've all memorized. From the time we're little children, We've memorized John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave. And he gave his best, his only begotten Son. And we can become so familiar with that verse that we lose its impact. But if you just take your time and digest that a little bit, love gives. Fundamentally, the main ingredient in love is giving. And when Paul was taking the Corinthians through a process of prophesying out of selfishness and using the gifts for their own benefit and for their own aggrandizement, for their own pleasure, what he did is he takes them through chapter 13, which is all about the gifts of the Spirit. He takes them through that and showing them that motivation really matters, and it's love, and that is what releases the grace of God. That's what releases the gifts of the Spirit. I think the reason we're not seeing a whole lot in terms of the gifts of the Spirit in the church worldwide these days is our love level is too low. I can get kind of excited about an economic crisis or crunch. I can get kind of excited about the kind of things we're being set up for in our culture and our society, because I think it could cause us to have to care for each other, to love each other, to give to each other, to support each other at a depth, at a level we have not previously known. And when that happens, the gifts of the Spirit there's going to be a flow. There's going to be a flow of grace, and we're going to scratch our heads and look at each other and say, why didn't we live this way all along? How come we didn't choose to live this way before? But I think it has to do with we're not needy enough. We're not really in that in the right mindset. But God so loved that he gave. And he gave to people who weren't worthy. And he gave to people who didn't deserve it. That's you and I. He didn't give to us because we had any merit. Love loves to give. When it says, Paul wrote, he says, the Lord loves a cheerful giver. I think what he's saying is he loves that feeling, that sensation, that whole inclination so much that he loves it when we tap into it. And you know how you love the best part of yourself? I think that's what he loves in us, is the best part of himself. He loves it when it's kind of like a parent loving it when their child does what they love. And God so loved the world, he gave. He put that same desire in us, and he wants us to love the world. Not the system, not necessarily everything in the culture, but he wants us to love people. He wants us to love people the way he loves people. And that opens up something where we get to taste his heart. We get a revelation of his heart. We get to experience his heart.